started gamelan player in the UK first?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Did you ask him about that? Do you want to ask me something about that? Okay. Right. Well, in the UK, the first people that were really got the gamelan ball rolling were Neil Sorrell and Alec Roth. Neil Sorrell up in York University, and Neil and Alec Roth initially in Durham, but then in London, and they started a group in the early 1980s called English Gamelan Orchestra, which was before my time gamelan-wise, but they were a mixture of musicians. There were some Javanese musicians that were over here, so they think they did a combination of traditional pieces and new compositions. That was Neil's big thing, really, is new composition. And then it was Alec that started the group at the South Bank Centre, so started the very first class there. And as I said, it was the first kind of public access class, so you didn't have to be a music student to play this. And so the very first term that I was in, because it was word of mouth, it was all musicians, and it's lots of people that I knew, and people like Eddie was in that very first class. And then the next year, so the next term, more people and more classes, and it grew and grew and grew. And at that time, it was like kind of like the epicenter of a kind of a huge gamelan explosion that's been happening ever since. So over the next 20 years, more and more classes started there. More and more teachers would come to have sessions, bring groups for workshops. Other places started buying gamelans, schools, educational authorities, universities, and it spread and spread and spread. And now there are well over 100 gamelans in the country. And now I think about 30 of those, over 30 of those are now Balinese gamelans. Most of them are Javanese. Over 30 are Balinese. There's about 14 Balinese gamelans in London. I made a mental note of this. But so Alec really started the Javanese gamelan in London. But I started the Balinese gamelan. I mean, maybe somebody would have come along and started Balinese gamelan if I hadn't done it. But
what about Sarah in Dartington? Did she start before you? Or?
No, well, she didn't start the gamelan then in Dartington.
So you started Balinese gamelan?
In London, yes. But in Dartington was going from about the early 1980s.
Before Success Gamelan?
Oh yes, long before. Yeah.
So they're actually the first gamelan group in the UK is in Dartington?
Yes, but in Dartington, basically, it was just it's like a student group. Like for example, the group I have at City. So students will learn gamelan for 3 years and then they'll go off somewhere else. So it's very difficult in that, with groups like that, to kind of get any progression, because you keep losing your best players. You have to start again. So this is what I encounter at City University. So that my best players then I feed either into this group, into the community group, or into Lila Cita. But it was who was running the group down there for a long time? Not Saj, long before Saj. Gordon Jones was running a group there. And I remember when there was a festival, Island to Island Festival in 1990 at the South Bank. There were groups from Indonesia that came over, and Dartington group came up and played, and they played some Balinese gamelan, and I thought, this is very slow. It was like quarter speed. That's all I remember about them. But I know that Saj, one of her frustrations is the group doesn't kind of progress because you keep losing players.
She doesn't really have a home group like.
No, because yes, exactly, and then they move on to other places. Whereas in London, people are always attracted to London because it's a kind of a magnet. So gamelan players are coming here from other places that have experience of Javanese or Balinese gamelan. So there's always players coming here. So I lose good players, but new players are always coming the whole time. So it's constantly changing.
So, York is the first group, and then the second group.
Well,
Four as a group.
I mean, In the early 1980s, as I say, there were 4 gamelans. There was a Javanese gamelan at York University, one at Durham, one at Oxford, one at Cambridge. There was Balinese gamelan at Dartington, and one in Belfast. It was at Queen's University at that time. Those were the only gamelans around. And then English Gamelan Orchestra, they used the Embassy Gamelan, which came, I think, in the late 1970s, 79. So they, I think, started rehearsing at the Embassy, if I remember. I mean, Neil would know about this. So that was the first kind of group, I would say, apart from student groups. It was English Gamelan Orchestra. But obviously a lot of very good players have come from York, started gamelan in York, because Neil, again, was very enthusiastic, like Alec. I mean, that was their mainly, because Alec was so enthusiastic, he transmitted that to me, and I became very enthusiastic. And I then hopefully transmit that to other people who come into gamelan. And Neil had the same effect on people going to York, music students, and then they become excited about gamelan. So a lot of them are very good players now, like John and Pete and Nye, Isabel.